Welcome to GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, the Going North podcast, where authors from around the world help you realize that success is tangible. You'll leave with at least one new piece of inspiration or information to help you keep going north. Now let's get on with the show. Today's episode is sponsored by book number 2 from Dominic Dom Brightman, Stay the Course, The Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success. It is the field guide to help unleash the elite performer that is inside of you. Cop it today on Amazon.com or heading over to dombrightman.com and snag it in book, ebook, and audio book, so that way you can take it on the go and get yourself on the go to your northbound success. And today on Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, it's the Going North podcast. And we got another super special, awesome human for you today, my friends. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed, because my goodness, we got a fellow bread warmer in the building, baby. That's right, indeed. And not only a fellow bread warmer, a.k.a. Toastmaster, for those who don't know my dad joke nonsense, he is also a professional speechwriter with over 10 years. You heard that right, folks. 10 years of experience helping business leaders, keynote speakers, TED Talk presenters, and everyday people to enhance the messages that they tell through great storytelling and structure. So let's give it up for the one and only ER himself. No, we're not talking about the emergency room, but we're talking about the excellent and radiant Eddie Rice. How you doing today, Eddie?
I'm doing well, Dom. Thank you for that introduction. That was probably the best one I've ever had.
Sweet. That's right, indeed. It's usually the best part of the show before the penguin references appear.
Well, I'm ready for them. So let's get it going.
That's right, indeed. Getting to going north. So my goodness, man. So as with all introductions, they're not allowed to be 17 days long, and I'm pretty sure you didn't think you'd be writing speeches for people at the age of 12. So mind telling us a bit more about the wonderful Eddie himself?
Of course. So I started out with college. That's where, my love of rhetoric and speech writing really, truly started. I took a really great class called Rhetoric in Antiquity, and we looked at Cicero and Aristotle and their teachings and how they applied to the modern day world. And we found that for the most part, they're pretty much the same. They're giving out the same advice that they've been giving out for thousands of years. And it's still the same ideas, the same concepts. And it was after college that I taught for 5 years as an 8th grade science teacher, but then pivoted to wanting to be a public speaking coach. But the problem was I had no business sense at the time and completely failed. I had all the skills to coach somebody, but none of the business sense to actually develop any set of clients. So it was after that that I looked for a different route, found speech writing, found people on the internet through Elance, Odesk, and Guru, and those types of sites, the predecessors to Upwork, and people needed speeches written. And so I started there and started writing, and sure enough, it just took off from there, and I was able to make this into a career.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, indeed, the magical career. And it says some really important stuff there, especially with the rhetoric, the way it was taught thousands of years ago, back in the good old days of that wonderful Greek society. Heck, even before that, because it's like, hey, a lot of foundational principles, they never really change. They're the foundation for the reason.
Exactly.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So my goodness, even though didn't have the business sense back then, it sounds like you went back to the metaphorical gym and got some six-pack abs because you decided to put some of your findings and some of the wonderful experience that you've had over these past 10 plus years into a wonderful book called Toast.
Yeah, I wish I had written this 5 years ago, to be honest, if not before then. But it was all of the questions and concerns that people came to me with as a speechwriter for all of those really short moments in our lives that are really big for us. The wedding toast, the retirement toast, the anniversary toast. And I thought, why not put that advice into a book to help other people out and give their toast?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, indeed. And you're so right, indeed. My goodness, I'm pretty sure you're probably a big hit during the summer months when wedding season is fully in effect.
Very much. It's one of my busiest times right now. We just got through graduation season, but transitioned into wedding season. And you bet 100% it's been busy.
Oh, That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's right, indeed. So busy as a one-legged man in a pogo stick race, right?
Right.
That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Well, that's good, though. That's really good, indeed. So, my goodness. So, with all this experience that you've had, do you feel like it's a confidence issue that a lot of people have, or do you think it's a clarity issue? Like, what do you think's probably been like? Where do you usually start off with your clients when you open them to really get those toasts ready for those special occasions?
I like how you brought up two words, confidence and clarity, because they go together a lot of the times. And that's a really good place to start, where a lot of people, when they come to me, they tell me, I don't have any idea of what it is that I want to say. And you ask them, then I start asking them questions, and all of a sudden these answers start pouring out of them. When in fact, it was a confidence issue that they thought they didn't have anything to say. And then it was also a clarity issue where once those ideas start to flow and they start telling me stories, they are now much clearer on what it is that they want to give as their toast. And so it's a twofold problem, and you nailed it right there. It's confidence and clarity, but really with brainstorming, that's the first step to overcome both of those. If you can do that in your speech, or before your speech, obviously, you're going to be in a good spot when you sit down to write the whole thing.
Woohoo! That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That brainstorming magic, baby. That's right, indeed. So, my man's a scientist, too, sounds like, metaphorically speaking.
A little bit of one. I mean, I taught science for 5 years, so I kind of have that same approach. We've got the scientific method. I've got my speech writing method, not too far off from each other.
Sweet. That's what I'm talking about. So there you go, folks. That's right. So if folks looking to hire somebody, my man Eddie's got you covered like a blanket. He's got a lab coat and he's not boring. So that's double the win, baby.
Well, thank you.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So my goodness, how do you keep your skills polished up, man? Are you still part of Toastmasters, or is there something else that you do to keep your skills polished, my man?
I do a few things. Yeah, one is definitely Toastmasters. So I can't rest on my laurels, and it's just something that I do every week, where I'm either giving a prepared speech or an impromptu speech in front of my local Toastmasters group. And for those out there that don't know about Toastmasters, it's a worldwide group. They help people with public speaking skills and leadership. And you just Google Toastmasters near me, and you'll find a club that's supposedly real nearby you, and you should be good to go. Just go to a meeting, enjoy it, and you will definitely get better as a public speaker. But it's definitely one thing that I do to stay sharp. And then I'm always reading, always writing, always taking on new clients. And if things get way too busy for me, I've got two excellent writers that I just brought on, who can take some of the work off of my plate and off of my shoulders.
Oh, nice. That's awesome, dude. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, building a little bit of an agency at this point. So it's a lot of fun.
Woohoo! There you go, baby. That's right, that magical agency. Sounds like the real deal Holyfield, baby. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So my goodness, my goodness. So with all this wonderful knowledge that a man has and helping out these folks really to have that confidence, to clarity, and get their ideas fully hashed out like a hash brown. So what's next for you, my man?
Oh, more books. That's just, I think, what has to happen next. I've kind of gotten bitten by the writing bug where, as much as I was behind the scenes writing for other people, it's now time to write for myself. And the next book is really going to look at Aristotle, Cicero, the Greeks and the Romans, and anyone else that has really been influential in public speaking, and find out what was their advice and does it still apply today. So that's going to be the focus of the next book, and I'm really looking forward to writing it.
Sweet. That's what I'm talking about indeed. So since you're a fellow introvert, is there going to be any tips for introverts in that book?
I think there will be, very much. I am an introvert myself, and public speaking does not come easy or naturally for me. It's something I've had to work at. So I think that at the same time, there's going to be advice in there for introverts to help them out with public speaking, because I know that's just a feeling that many of us have, is that we can't be Tony Robbins up on the stage, but we don't have to be. And in fact, I'd recommend a really good TED Talk by Susan Cain called The Power of Introverts, and her book similarly titled, if you're in need of help in that area.
Oh, yeah. That's right, indeed. That's right, Miss South Carolina herself, Susan Kane, baby, the SC. That's right, indeed. That quiet, y'all. That's right, indeed. That quiet, indeed. Yeah, that book, that probably even started a freaking movement. Folks are like, oh my gosh, finally I have a word for not choosing to socialize with certain people. It's introversion, finally. It makes so much sense
Exactly.
now.
Kind of have our banner, but none of us would probably raise that banner.
That's right. That's right. Introverts unite at their own separate locations.
That's right.
Oh, God. Shades of episode 12 already. Who would have thought? That's what I'm talking about. My goodness, man. So, since you've been on this wonderful interview tour promoting your book and the wonderful work that you're doing to help out others, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often?
Ooh, that's a really good one. I think we don't always get into how I actually wrote the book. Some podcast hosts will ask about it, and then others skip over it as if it was just expected that a writer can write a book. And to be honest, writing a book is way different than writing a speech. And this book I had to actually put on pause due to COVID because no one was giving speeches in the middle of the COVID epidemic. And they're still kind of thawing out today to give them. But for a while, this book was in junk draft mode where I had a lot of words on the page, but not a lot of coherence or structure. So it wasn't until I took a step back from what I had on the page, recreated my outline from scratch, and then rewrote the whole thing to that outline. And that's when the book came together. So I was really proud of that process for putting the whole thing together.
Oh wow, heck, you're so right about that, man. Yeah, because a lot of folks assume that writers, oh yeah, you're a writer, you wrote a book, yeah, you probably wrote it, probably was easy. But my goodness, yeah, man, that pandemic kind of set a lot of people back and forced folks to become book boomers in a way. So my goodness, I know you touched a bit on, especially with mentioning the outline. Was there anything else that was part of the process that helped you to finally get to the publishing and now selling and marketing phase of the book?
Yeah, I would actually lock myself in a hotel room for a few weekends to finally get the rest of the book done. So that's not something I tell a ton of people about because they think it's a little bit weird. But other authors have done this as well. They go out, whether it's to a cabin, a hotel, wherever, somewhere different, and their only task is to write the book. And I actually did that a few times to get it across the finish line. So it was just one technique I had to do. I had to get out of my own house, my own apartment, get away from people, get away from obligations, and focus solely on the book. And doing that pushed it over the finish line.
Ah, that's what I'm talking about, indeed. Heck, even one of our past guests, Holly Warden, she actually used that technique a couple times for a couple of her projects as well. Just basically getting a hotel room for a few days, heck, even a weekend, and just using it just for work and to build up those wonderful reward points, and eventually have a free day when she decides to workation again and get that writing in. Because you're so right, man. Like, that was like kind of the drawback with the pandemic. It's like, oh, sweet, the time we've been asking for, we deserve, yay. Oh, crap. I'm at home with the distractions. Oh, crap. I'm a parent with the kid or kids or family, whatever. It's like,
And
no.
you just get sick of your surroundings. I mean, it's just kind of like looking at the same thing all day long, or you're just, kind of trapped by your room if it's kind of tiny. And it's just really nice to get out for once and just, have that change of scenery, that change of environment. It feels just different. Your mind's in a different spot and you just get things done. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah, I can see that again. Definitely don't want to get too bored of the scenery, indeed. That's right, indeed. Heck, now that I think about it, actually transition to another random question. So, my goodness, man. So, with speeches, it kind of depends on the environment for some places because you may not always have a lectern or the sound can go out. So, my goodness, what do you think may give you a big advantage? Let's say if you're in a environment where you may have to project a little louder than usual, or you may have to adapt on stage. Like any advice for adapting on stage as a presenter?
One thing you can do ahead of time is to get to know people in the audience. So this is not something that's going to help necessarily with projection, but it's going to help with your confidence level. Where if you have conversations with people ahead of time, it's going to feel much more natural and the crowd's going to feel friendlier to you before you go on stage. So I would say, 15, 20 minutes beforehand, rather than standing backstage alone, get out there into that crowd and ask people questions. Learn about them. One, you can use those questions in your speech, but then second, just by warming up yourself with the crowd, it's going to be a lot easier on stage for you to then have a conversation with those audience members that you met beforehand, a metaphorical conversation, because it's going to feel like you know them, and it's going to make it just a little bit easier for you to be your confident self on stage.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right. Make some friends, y'all. That's right. Make some friends, indeed, before we get on stage. That's right, indeed. Make them friends, y'all. It makes life a lot easier for you. It's like, ha, sweet. Like I talk with that person. Hey, the speaker talked to me. All right, he or she's a cool person. I like them in case something stupid happens. It's like, oh, they didn't bomb. They just had a bad moment. They just had a setback. That's all.
Right.
That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. On speaking of bombs, even though some food is the bomb and some food is not the bomb, if your wonderful book Toast, if it was a food, what would it be and why?
That's the question I've never gotten. Um, it's interesting. I had sushi earlier today, and I would really liken it to sushi. It is a quick bite. It's not going to be overly filling, but you're going to have just enough, and it's got just enough flavor and just enough spice to it that it's going to keep you entertained. But it's not going to take you, very long to enjoy it. Instead, it's going to be fairly short, and that was the whole point of it. So I would go sushi.
Woohoo! That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. I think you might be the third guest this year to refer to their book of sushi, so there you go. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. It's a hat trick, baby. That's
Got to
right,
be
it's
something with
sushi.
writers and sushi. I don't know what it is.
Well, hey, if it's a mystery novelist, it's probably something fishy.
Yes. Oh, I love that. That's great.
Oh, man. Yep. Couldn't resist. Couldn't resist. Well, hey, since my man's been on the roll, another fun question for you. So, has there been a big life setback that you had that actually set you up for big success?
Ooh. It's never been a major setback, to be honest. It's always been a bunch of minor ones, or at least that's how I prefer to look at them. I've had this journey where I've not just been a speechwriter, but I've been a teacher, a content marketer, a resume writer. Let's see here, just a regular marketer. And I've just had various jobs, all lasting around 6 months to a year and a half, nothing completely solid all of the time. And I've had to reinvent myself many times in my life, just over and over again, with a new job, a new career, a new industry, each time always falling back on my writing skills to see me through. So it was having those transferable skills that allowed me the power of reinvention all throughout my life. So nothing major that's ever set me back, but very minor things and definitely some twists and some turns in the path of life to get to where I am now.
So the camel hump didn't sit on you when you first woke up in the morning and you had to fight your way out of it. I'm guessing that never happened.
That's one way to put it.
So right indeed, just wake up on a random Wednesday morning. It's like, whoa, I don't feel this bloated. Oh, it's a camel. Oh, darn no. I guess some wine won't get me out of this one.
Right.
Won't be toasting today. Oh, man. But hey, it's all good. It's all good indeed. Well, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but you're still in 2022 with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Oh man, what would I give to myself at 25? I would tell myself that one, it was perfectly okay for me to not be a teacher anymore. That that path ended after 5 years. That was a good thing. I was just not the right fit for the classroom, and to get started writing earlier. That I should have started it much, much, much earlier than I had started, especially with writing a book. That should have been one of the first things that I did, rather than one of the later ones. But of course, I wouldn't have had any experience to write about, unless I had gone through everything. But I think starting writing for myself earlier on would have been a much better career path, or at least foundation for my own marketing, than waiting this long to do it.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right. Don't wait, y'all. That's right. Get to work now on embracing your dream career, y'all. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. My man Eddie got to escape the teaching world for a bit, at least in the world that was confined. Now he's in the world of teaching others, where it is a whole lot less confined. He has more autonomy, baby. That's right, indeed. Can do some more experiments. That's right. Oh, there we go. Experimental Eddie. There we go.
There we go. I love it.
That's right, baby. He's the double E, baby. The double E. So for those who need to keep in contact with the double E himself and all the wonderful stuff that you're doing, especially with the upcoming book with book number 2 and all the other stuff, what's the best way for folks to do so, my man?
You can find me at ricespeechwriting.com, RICE, followed by the word speechwriting.com. The book that I've written is you can find it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Apple, any bookstore that's out there. They should be carrying it online at least. There's an online version, the ebook, audiobook, and paperback as well.
Woohoo! Well, there you have it, folks. We're going to put a link to that marvelous book in the show notes. Be sure to cop a copy of the magical book if you like. Get your toasting on, indeed. That's right, indeed. Be prepared to give that toast, that wedding speech, heck, even that regular speech. And that way you can also join Toastmasters as well. This podcast is a big proponent of Toastmasters. If you're not part of Toastmasters, you are missing out, indeed. That's right, indeed. You are likely to get hit by a giant bull if you don't join Toastmasters. Just saying. Just saying. But hey, it's not about getting hit by bulls. It's about the wonderful experimental Eddie. So my goodness, man, any parting words before we close up shop, my man?
Just remember, if you're giving a toast, honor the person, honor the event. If you achieve those two goals with your toast, you're going to have done a fantastic job.
This is your host, Don Brightman. Hope you enjoyed what you just heard. And if you really did, do me a solid and leave a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, wherever you're listening to. And subscribe to hear more, because more is coming your way to advance you further than before.